To be honest with you, at the end of the day, both were great handhelds that changed the whole market. I mean, the innovativeness of the DS and the art style of the GBA and all the GBA games was amazing. But at the end of the day, when we're adding up all the points, the winner is obvious. Hey, what's up y'all? Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for clicking on this video. Please hit that like button and that subscribe button. It really helped the channel out a lot. And let's get straight to it. Hope you enjoy. A while ago now, I put a poll up on my channel about two revolutionary Nintendo consoles that have been gaming staples in the industry ever since they came out. And 52 of y'all voted on which one y'all like more, the Nintendo DS or the Game Boy Advance. Unexpectedly, the DS won in a landslide, and I thought to myself, is it because, my audience is around the age of 21 or younger, or did I just ask a dumb question? But thanks to one commenter on that poll, I was reminded of one important thing that could have skewed the results. The fact that the DS could play Game Boy Advance games. So I ran to my YouTube studio and decided to cook up a video, in almost an attempt to redeem the Game Boy Advance, but really to show y'all that this is a much closer race than y'all really thought. And of course, the first thing I'm gonna do is omit the fact that the DS could play GBA games. Today, we're gonna make like some heavyweights and go title for title here. Starting out this video, I really don't have a clear favorite. A lot of my consoles were hand-me-downs, so I came to the party late a couple times. Hence why I was born in '02, but still had ample time with the GBA and the DS. Game Boy Advance and the DS. The first handheld I ever had was a Game Boy Advance, and it had a preloaded Fire Red save on it, and I was out of luck because I was only 4 years old. I never got the tutorial to play Pokemon, so I didn't know how to play. Ironically, I play Pokemon games now and wonder why people need a tutorial for such a simple game. Anyways, what I did have was an N64 with Pokemon Stadium on it, and I fell madly in love with Pokemon, which led me back to the GBA and also the DS. Which should mean that I have no bias. I have a bunch of childhood memories on the DS, but I also grew up playing Game Boy Advance, and I still play Game Boy Advance games to this day because, they're totally easy to legally play. And I play them totally legally, of course, off the record. So right now, I'm kind of starting this video off with no bias, so let's see if by the end of this video, I side with the majority and hold this L of a question that I asked, or I can remind y'all on the greatness of the Game Boy Advance. Then I'll post another poll to see if any of the answers have changed. And that brings up a good point. We have 3 rules for this little game we're playing here. Number 1, we are omitting backwards compatibility. Number 2, we are omitting technological advancements, i.e. the dual screen and the stylus of the DS, the graphical upgrades that came with the DS, and the Wi-Fi capabilities that came with the DS. And number 3, we are omitting all Pokemon titles because then we'd just be arguing about which games were better, and that's a whole nother argument in and of itself. Because Pokemon kind of ruled the handheld space, omitting all Pokemon games does make both catalogs a little skinny, but we gonna still roll with it because they still came out with some heat. The first game that we're gonna get to that's non-Pokemon for the Game Boy Advance is Metroid Fusion. Many people forget that Metroid Fusion took the series to a whole nother era. And albeit the series did ended up looking a lot different when Metroid Prime started coming out for the Wii in 2006. One way Metroid Fusion went rogue is the way it moved the narrative and moved the story forward. I mean, Samus's character was more fleshed out, and there was an introduction of a main antagonist to the Metroid series known as SAX. And if anybody's played Metroid Dread, then you know the idea of a parasitic entity that takes over surrounding creatures. And spoilers, Metroid Suit is a game mechanic that's been dated back all the way back to Metroid Fusion. The Game Boy Advance made the pixelated graphics and the small screen work really well. It gave the feeling that Samus was being watched and lurked in this game of cat and mouse with SAX all throughout the game. Metroid Fusion is a Metroid cult classic that raked in 1 million copies. 1 million copies for the Game Boy Advance. But if we're talking real big dogs of Nintendo when comparing these two titles, then we might as well start off with the biggest dog for DS, which was New Super Mario Bros. DS. This game must have came packed with everybody's system because everybody had that John. I mean, it wasn't as expansive as the New Super Mario Bros. Wii version of this game, but it was still a damn good game. I mean, my pops was a gamer too, and he made sure that I knew all of the skips in the original Super Mario Bros. Like the one that takes you from like World 2 to World 5, and then like World 5 to World 8 or something like that. But the New Super Mario Bros. DS was better in every way possible. New graphics, new power-ups, and the best yet, The GBA ain't have nothing like this. I mean, well, it kinda did. Super Mario Advance 1 and 2, but you can't sit up here and tell me that Super Mario Advance 1 and 2 is anywhere near as good as New Super Mario Bros. DS. Now, Super Mario is a well-known title, but if you ever wanted to find a small group of people overly passionate about a super niche thing, go inside any room and yell out "Advance Wars" really loudly. This game hid incredibly complex mapping and big brain strategy behind cute tanks and pixel art. It was really a game for tactical geniuses that happened to own a Game Boy Advance. Each commander in that game was a unique character all in itself, with unique dialogue and unique power-ups and skill sets. The game had everything from multiplayer to an uberly long story. And the crazy thing is, the Game Boy Advance saw 2 of these titles, each one beloved by the audience. The first Advance Wars actually put out like a little less than 1 million copies, and the DS actually had Advance Wars out too, but you know, releasing a game with a previous console's name on it didn't sell as well for the DS. But the DS keeps coming out with these haymakers because the next one on the list is Phantom Hourglass. When you showed people this version of Link, I mean, this version of Toon Link, as Super Smash Bros. Would call it, it was hard to ask a general audience to put their arms around this guy and embrace him like they did all of the other Links from all of the other Zeldas. Wind Waker already introduced this version of Link, but the DS came around and gave us the top-down version to really test our loyalty. But when you played the game, you became familiar with his game. Zelda staples like Tingle the Merchant gain life in this game. It was so good, it made people totally forget about Spirit Tracks. It had better dungeons, it had better touchscreen controls than Spirit Tracks, just to simply put it. But going on with the mantra of a heavyweight title fight between the Nintendo DS and the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance keeps throwing haymakers because this next one out is Minish Cap. If you're a Zelda fan and you haven't played the Minish Cap, you are missing out. If you aren't a Zelda fan and you still haven't played the Minish Cap, you are still missing out. It's just a good game. The dungeons in this game was great. I mean, the story was amazing. There were some original story beats that were introduced in this game. Nintendo had really shown their mastery of what they could do in the 2D space, kind of similar to the way Square Enix did with Final Fantasy VI. And today we play all types of Zelda games from Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, and we ask ourselves, how do you fit a Zelda game on the Game Boy Advance? But they found a way to do it, and they found a way to do it right. Nintendo basically took everything that they learned from Oracle of Season and Link's Awakening, mixed it all together, added in some new characters, and returned a masterpiece to us, all in 2D pixelated graphics. 2D pixelated colored graphics. And if only Nintendo had supported full emulation of their past titles. Anyways, last title to round out this list is a title that put some of its best work out on the Nintendo DS. Yes, I'm talking about Animal Crossing Wild West, the game that saved us all during the pandemic. Animal Crossing was making games before they came out with this one for the DS, but this was the one that introduced Animal Crossing to the handheld space, and it worked really well. From starting out behind on your mortgage to basically running the whole damn show, Animal Crossing was a great game with a great premise that we still enjoy to this day. By the way, no bonus points for this, but the game did have a pretty cool online component, just saying. But we also said we weren't doing the whole Wi-Fi capabilities thing, so I guess we're not doing the whole Wi-Fi capabilities thing. Animal Crossing was a management life sim in a way that The Sims could never. Now, wrapping this all up, the Game Boy Advance does get some bonus points for the art style that it had introduced to the video gaming world. I mean, people still use those pixelated graphics when they're modding games and making ROMs to this day, so GBA does deserve some bonus points for that. The Nintendo DS does get a little bit of bonus points too for the fact that it was so innovative in the way that it changed the way gaming was looked at, especially for handhelds. And there's little things to remind yourself of, like PictoChat, which I am not including into the Wi-Fi capabilities because that was more like Bluetooth. You had to be like 50 feet away for it to work. To be honest with you, at the end of the day, both were great handhelds that changed the whole market. I mean, the innovativeness of the DS and the art style of the GBA and all the GBA games was amazing. It led to some great titles, and along the lineage of all of the handheld Nintendo systems came the Switch, which was birthed from all of the ideas that came from these two great systems. But at the end of the day, when we're adding up all the points, the winner is obvious. Obviously, the winner is kids like me who got to enjoy both of them. We didn't even get to all of the games that make each system great. I mean, Mario Kart, Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Academy, the other Animal Crossing games, Castlevania, F-Zero. There are so many more games out there. But seriously, y'all let me know which console was better, the Nintendo DS or the Game Boy Advance? Or better yet, just let me know in the next poll. And to be honest with you, it's all based on nostalgia, personal experiences, and memory. So it's always fun to see which one comes out on top and how the polls swing this time. Because in a few years from now, the polls could be way different, especially since the people who weren't introduced to the GBA might not be polling. But yeah, this video was fun to do, especially for me because I was able to look at the Nintendo DS and the Game Boy Advance, two systems that I play regularly and look forward to going back to regularly. I've always been a big Pokemon fan, so I played every Pokemon game on each system, but going outside of the Pokemon universe, literally, and playing other games has always been a treat to me. So making this video was super fun for me to do personally. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're still watching, honestly, if you're still watching, check out the rest of my channel. You'll like all my other videos. They are just like this. And yeah, peace out. Give inspiration, spread love in everything you do. You're leaving the bread show, but you don't have to leave the bread show because there's a whole lot more bread show where this is coming from. And peace out. I don't know why.
Welcome to the Bread Show. Take 2.
And I play them totally legally, you know, of course, you know, off